You can access the entire episode now on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. I'm excited to get into this, and I'm excited to rewatch Conan the Barbarian after this, so this is great.
Right on.
So where do you want to start with this?
Well, I probably ought to start with the slideshow that I put together so I could work on a screen share, so bear with me here. I'm going to change some things around. We're going to start here. So we'll jump right into it. So Conan's a 1982 film by Dino De Laurentiis, and it's got Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Earl Jones. So something that some folks might not know, that it's actually set in a fictional universe that was created by Robert E. Howard called the Hyborian Age, and he based it in roughly 10,000 BC. So it's got some Norse references, and it does mention an Egyptian god by the name of Set, S-E-T. But the main antagonist, being James Earl Jones, is the leader of a snake cult that performs a ritual sacrifice to a snake god, or sacrifices, I should say. So we're going to cue the music, and then I included this just because I really like the quote, which is "That which does not kill us makes us stronger," by Nietzsche. So a lot of this movie is narrated by one of the characters, and that's Mako the Wizard. So after the credits, Mako's voice cues in. He's speaking the words, "Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of, and unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, his chronicler, who alone can tell thee of his saga. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure." So, pretty good kickoff to the movie. And that was, this is the forging of his father's sword right here, is what you're seeing. And it is, I look at that as more of a moose. We'll see a lot of ram's heads later on, but this is more of a moose skull. But anyway, we're going to move on.
It's already bringing back those nostalgic.
I'm telling you, man, if 80s movies not the best thing ever.
They were, dude. They're my favorites.
And I raised my kids on them, and even my children who are early 20s and late teens, even they'll testify that the 80s and early 90s movies were just better. They really were. So anyhow, we move on to a scene in a snowy mountain range, and this is young Conan sitting with his father on a mountaintop. His father is sitting there telling him more of a kind of a spiritual talk. So he's telling him that the fire and wind come from the sky, from the gods of the sky. And he says, Crom is your god. And so we'll get into that as well. He lives in the earth. Once giants lived in the earth. And in the darkness of chaos, they fooled Crom. And I'm almost getting kind of like Nephilim type vibes whenever you listen to
that's almost a direct Bible quote. That once there were giants in the earth.
I know, right? So they're not messing around, and they do the shit through the whole movie, man. I'll get to that later. Anyhow, so it's kind of got like a Nephilim type vibe here. So, and they're saying that the giants, when they fooled Crom, they took from him the enigma of steel. Crom was angered, and the earth shook, and fire and wind struck down these giants, and they threw their bodies into the waters. But in their rage, the gods forgot the secret of steel and left it on the battlefield. And we who found it are just men. And then he goes on to basically saying, you can trust no one in this life, not men, not women, not beasts. The only thing that you can trust is your sword. And this is the only actual picture of Crom that I could find that actually looked legit. So on the left, you have this tree, earthy looking clay being Cyclops with what looks like maybe an olive wreath on his head. And on the right, that's St. Patrick. So Crom being more of a Celtic deity. So I'll get into that. So being that Conan is a Sumerian and the Sumerians were based on the Celts, it only makes sense that Conan would worship a Celtic deity named Crom. So Crom is short for Crom. I'm just going to say Crutch, C-R-U-I-A-C-H. I don't want to butcher the name, which was the god of the Celts prior to St. Patrick. So Crom was known for requiring the sacrifice of the firstborn child of every family and the firstborn of every livestock every Samhain or Halloween. So it was believed that once Crom received his harvest of children and livestock, that he would reward them with a bountiful harvest of crops. Crom was often depicted as a gold figure surrounded by 12 stone or bronze figures. So throughout history and religion, we find the 12 and the 1, right? Whether it's Jesus, whether it's Horus, it's still that same 12 and 1 story over and over again. You had your one God, and then you had your 12 followers, right? So
Right.
Crom is thought to actually be the Celtic derivative of either Kronos or Saturn. And we'll get into that through the rest of the movie as well. You'll see some Saturnian stuff. I did find something out there, and this is the first time I've heard this. I'm not 100% sure on it, but they're saying that Crom could also be associated with Moloch, specifically in an old Irish tale called The Seas of Drum Damgare. And the Greeks may have also identified Moloch as Kronos due to his child-eating tendencies. And we know the story of Kronos eating his own children.
Yeah.
So we're tying Crom to Saturn in this. All right, so back to the movie. So we enter a horsebound army with a twin serpent emblem. It has I'll go ahead and just tell you now, a dark sun and a dark moon. And they arrive at Conan's village in the snowy mountains and proceed to basically ravage the entire village. So we'll get into the black sun and the black moon. They speak about it through the whole movie, and then there's some stuff later on they're interesting references. I'll just say that. Okay, so this is Conan and his mother. They are cowering and trying to hide from this snake serpent army, right? If you'll look on the left-hand side of her garment, you'll see something that kind of looks like a Masonic apron. Do you see kind of where I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right, so I put the apron to the side there. I know that seems minimal. This is ginger beer compared to the stuff you're going to see later. So I'll just skip on past that, but you do have a reference here. All right, so I stopped here sheerly because it's interesting in kind of a different way to me. So you'll see, her clothing again. So this is where the army has her and Conan cornered, right? So something that you didn't see because I didn't include it in the slide. So right now, Conan's father is either being killed or he's dead. They sick some dogs on him. So Conan ends up with his mother while dogs attack and kill his father. As the army approaches Conan and his mother, she draws her sword. So here's something that I didn't even pick up on this till like 2 days ago when I was reviewing my stuff. So if Conan's father is dead, that makes her a widow, right? In this moment, which makes Conan a widow's son. Have you heard that terminology before, the widow's son?
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah.
a nod to it's a Masonic nod to Hiram Abiff, right?
Yeah.
So. And what else I have here? So, yeah, in this scene, the mother and child are also shown in between the soldiers' shoulders. I can't even talk. Have you ever seen anything in whether it's old texts or anybody documenting anything about the chalice in the womb being in the shape of a V?
Yeah.
All right. So if you can draw a V from the V's of these shoulders of these soldiers, they'll form a V, and you have mother and child in the womb right there.
Yes, I can see it very clearly.
All right.
That's interesting.
It is. So moving on. So in this next scene, you'll see, I just gave you a close-up of her clothing one more time. So we'll click on through. So right now, keep in mind, his dad is dead, and they've taken his father's sword. Enter James Earl Jones, a.k.a. Thulsa Doom. You'll see the all-seeing eye in his armor.
Yeah.
Matches. And I pulled this straight off the Masonic shop, man. They have an online shop where they buy all their own merch, right? So this is where why would I not go straight to the source, right? I'm not gonna try to go to Shutterstock or anything like that. I'm gonna go to where they buy their stuff because then I know it's real. So anyhow, more symbolism of the eye on his armor.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out here, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is in the center of this helmet headpiece, you'll see a little piece of jade. So jade, often associated with nobility and wealth, and also sometimes considered to be a protector of the generations, both living and dead. As you'll see the jade throughout the movie, and the more the conversations go, this to me sounds like bloodline preservation. But we'll get into more of that here in a little bit. So here is where he officially cuts off his mother's head right as Conan's holding her hand. So you see this in a lot of movies, right?